Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles. I am delighted to be joined with Suha with her fantastic movie, Rosa. For those that haven't seen it, let's take a look at the clip.
What's the name, honey? Margaret? Mm-hmm. Queens? The one in Queens? Okay. What do you want me to say on the card? Thoughts and prayers? Sorry for your loss.
I'm delighted that we're LA to Brooklyn right now.
Yes.
It's how wonderful. I'm so thankful you brought your film to us. I really loved this character and her life and her journey you gave us. But for those that haven't seen your film, tell us a brief synopsis.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been such a wonderful festival. So Rosa is about a Latino woman in Queens who works at her aunt's flower shop, and she has an underground side hustle of shipping bodies to their home countries for burials. So,
I mean, what a fascinating synopsis, you know?
Yeah, and so Rosa's played by the great Jackie Cruz, and she was the perfect fit for the character.
And as a big fan of hers and loving her work, it was so delightful to her see, be in this role, which she did so fantastically well. I as living in New York too, there are so many lives that we pass every day in New York City that we don't know what one is going through, what's going on. We've all got this kind of hard face in New York of just getting through the day and life. And I just love that you just shone the light on this person, like it just felt very relatable to a lot of people that we come across in New York City when we live there and experience, and what a character that you created. For what I'm so curious to ask you, Soho, is tell us a little bit about where the story was inspired by.
Yeah, I mean, it was inspired long before I showed up in New York, which was about 10 years ago. It was actually inspired by being from an immigrant family. Both of my grandfathers were buried in Michigan. Both are Palestinian, and I just never felt like that. There was just something incomplete about that for me. And years ago, I lived in San Francisco, and I was part of a Dia de los Muertos exhibit and I created an altar for my grandfathers called Buried in Michigan, about how both of them are buried there. And I created an altar for each of them with just objects that reminded me of them. But it was such a significant moment when my first grandfather died, and like the patriarch of a family, like the whole family is here. Not all of, I mean, there's families in both places, but he was such a significant part of our family and instilled Palestine in all of us. And I mean, his death and being buried in Michigan just kind of hit me in a way that made me look at the bigger story of immigration and why people leave home and why he never returned to Palestine. And so the idea of where one is buried has just always been something for me. And so I asked the guests at the installation to sign a guest book of where they wanted to be buried. And, people had a range of answers, but I was really surprised that a lot of people knew the answer. I don't know that I have. And so it was just always a topic that was interesting to me. And when I was in San Francisco, the Mission District is a very traditionally Latino district. And there was a funeral home there that actually had a service that was quite robust of shipping bodies home. Mm-hmm. And people wanted to go home to be buried. And so Rosa was born from a question, the question of what if you couldn't go home? Like, what if something was going on in your country? What if paperwork was hard to get for whatever reason? It's not cheap. What do you do if you really want to get someone home and can't? And it also takes quite some time. We did a lot of research, but it's not like a, you know, simple process. It's very doable, but I wanted to explore the notion of what if you couldn't. And so that's where Rosa was born.
It's so great, and I really love that. I mean, you know, again, you know, sorry, you obviously had to go through this of losing someone special to you and your family as well. But I think one of the things that can be taken for granted, particularly when, you know, we have so many amazing different people from different countries living here. That every country has different traditions of how to do things and how to honor your family members when they pass and all those things. And like, you know, respectfully, you know, it may not feel as authentic as what it would be in your own country. And even just the idea of being, you know, buried in the place where you're from, like all of those things originally, like, I think all of these things are, you know, it's things that we don't think about. And I'm so glad that you brought like light onto this. Now you took us into this world of Rosa, and you obviously got a tremendous lead and an ensemble cast. Tell us a little bit about the casting process for you, because I was just, you know, as expected, mesmerized by the performance. I'm sure the same way you was.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a process. I mean, my real hope was to kind of have this immigrant underground and show, like, as those of us that know New York, you see so many interactions that there's so many layers of New York. It's hard to capture it all. And actually, my parents were living here at the time that I was writing Rosa, and we were living in Astoria in Queens, and they were like, wow, no one's speaking English. Everyone speaks English, but they're choosing to communicate in whatever language. And so, you know, as immigrants who spent most of their lives in Ohio, hearing all of these languages was actually a new thing. And having lived in New York for 10 years, kind of took that for granted, that you can go a day or two without even hearing English. And so I really wanted to capture like all the different communities. And so Rosa, this short film is really the start of the journey of Rosa. We're really expanding it. But Jackie, once my producer connected us, I definitely wanted a Latina lead, and she was someone that I loved her. She felt very New York to me. She felt like Rosa, like she can handle stuff. And so Jackie got the script and called me immediately, and we talked for hours, and it was just like, you know, that was it. She was Rosa. And so she was wonderful to work with. Hattie, who plays Ali, was also amazing, and I've known him for a long time, and initially had envisioned a much older character for Ali. But in talking to Hattie, really realizing that no, for a man of his age, actually this could be more interesting and dynamic. And so brought him on. He blew me away on set with his performance. Zahra, who plays the singer, is an Iraqi actress and singer, also in New York, who I know. And you know, that role is a little controversial. Normally it's a man in that role. If it's a woman, it's an older person. And I'm like, well, you know, you got to do what you have. You got to do what you got to do, right? So I'm like, it might be cool if it's actually a younger woman. And my favorite casting choice was my father, who plays Sammy at the warehouse. Yeah. And I think he's a great actor.
Yes, he is. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, congrats. Was that his debut as an actor? Was that
it was his debut, and it was a SAG film. So he is, you know, he has his first SAG film under his belt now, and I think he's got a lot more in him.
And he's got shown in partnership with the Academy of Motion Arts and Science.
Right?
Not a bad start to your career. No, that's wonderful. And I don't know. I really feel with you, like you just, you know, I can feel for you as a director. You just create this, you know, wonderful energy, and you've got so much love for the project that you've set up. And I'm just curious your process. Like, you know, there's some high stakes in this film. Obviously, you've got some tremendous, obviously, you know, actors in this film. But like, what's your kind of process like? Like, are you kind of quite hands-on? Do you kind of, you know, is there rehearsal a big part, or improvisation? Like, how do you work as a director?
That's a good question. obviously what the film, I think each film kind of tells you what it needs. This was my first time really going to more of a darker subject matter. My previous work is more comedy and light and sort of like easier to take in. So I knew this was the heaviness of this film needed to be pulled off really carefully. And so honestly, the way I like to work is finding the right people. I think it's so important to connect. I think for each person to really connect to the project and then do their job to take it further than I can take it. You know, like I think I like to work with people that take it further, like show me something I haven't seen yet. And so you know, out the gate, I'm already working with people that like I trust. And so there actually for Rosa, there wasn't a lot of rehearsal on performance. I knew I had great actors, and that was not a worry or an issue. It was really like the logistics of the body and the timing and the layers of what was going on, of like Rosa really needing to be compassionate, but needing this body on the plane or nothing was going to work. And so I think there was a nuance in her performance that she really pulled off. But it was, the whole cast and crew was amazing. It was mostly people from immigrant families that really connect. I can't, like, so many people that worked on it was like told me their own stories, and each person was like, I think about this, or like my grandmother, or like everyone really connected to it. And that it was really one of the most special circumstances I've worked under as a director so far, because I feel like we were all rooting for it. It wasn't easy. It was a 4-day shoot with company moves every day around Brooklyn and Queens, and you know, just getting from Queens to Brooklyn is not easy.
Oh, we all know that's a mission in itself. You know, you have the Academy Award for that one. You know, so no, and I love that you brought that, and I think particularly, you know, I love that a lot of the people in your cast and crew, you know, obviously from immigrant families. I think we're doing harm, particularly in this particular subject, if we're not actually having people that can really feel and understand, you know, the stakes of this, the circumstances, the trials and tribulations of what one has to go through to make this happen. So, you know, I love that was a great experience. And I think it really shows well on camera. You can really feel an energy of a set when it works, you know, and I really felt that in your film. I really did. You know, aside, obviously logistics being one thing, and that's a whole nother ball game. You know, I'm more in the heart of films myself, like you. So what was the biggest challenge that you faced in making this film?
Long pause. You know, production was now, it was like production was pre-pandemic, and I'm like, what? I don't even.
Wow.
You know, this film actually was the recipient of the Through Her Lens Chanel grant at Tribeca, and that was a really big deal. And it gave us full production funds, which I feel like never happens, and was such a blessing to just be able to put the project in motion. So the challenge was really about making sure we got it right. I think just a real care in the research. You know, this is sacred territory, and just really wanting to make sure it was done right. Oh, you know, just on a pure logistics, like finding an airplane was challenge.
How was that experience? Oh my goodness.
I've never, you know, when I was writing the script, I was like, okay, they load the crate onto an airplane. I'm like, ooh, like as a writer, like writing in an airplane, you kind of like know that that's gonna get cut. And I really, like, I had a long pause in the writing process, and I'm like, we need the plane.
I love it. I love it.
Just like, I'm writing in the plane, and then production found the plane. And you know, that's the thing, is people put their whole heart into it. And you know, it was, so I think Another big challenge was just the physicality of like wrapping this body, and you know, the challenge of the actual space we were in, and the work, and you know, having our production day be cut in half for like external factors, and just like, you know, every day felt like a huge accomplishment to
Yeah.
just get it done. But I'm sure every film feels like that. But
Well, it's what it's deserved that, you know, when you've accomplished it. I mean,
yeah.
I'm so glad. That's a very special, you know, grant, and they only give to very few people. So, you know, congratulations on getting that in the first place. And then you have the pressure of the end result and everything else. But I mean, we're honored at New Filmmakers LA to have it, but it was extra special that it was, you know, in partnership with, you know, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and then putting, you know, showing a great light, you know, on filmmakers, you know, from all over the world, essentially. But it's special that here in the United States, they put a, you know, in focus on your film as well, and celebrating voices from our global community. How special was that being part of this particular program?
Yeah, it was wonderful. And I got to connect with other filmmakers in the program who I've been wanting to meet, watching their films on the circuit. So, you know, that's the best part of filmmaking is the community that you build. And, you know, these things are so important.
Yeah. What's next for you?
Oh, well, pending just the human race surviving. um, I have my producer and I are co-creating a series from Rosa. It was conceived as a series, and so we're expanding it now. I'm collaborating on another series with different co-creators. It's a comedy, and what I'm actually hoping to go into production on very soon is a feature film that I've been working on for over a decade, called Khsara, or Pickled in English. And it's about Arab women who don't get married in time. And
Oh, wow.
I just received the Creative Capital grant for that this week.
Congrats.
Yeah, so
What a great end to the year.
yeah, so I'm hoping that gives us some momentum to get the production off the ground.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited for you. I really am. You're so deserving in all the projects that you're making and doing, and, you know, sharing us with us great stories. You know, in your, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are just watching you, thinking to yourself, like, how does she do it? Like, what's her secret? What's her secret, you know, sauce that she does to get things made and happen? Like, for any filmmakers out there, you know, particularly filmmakers that are trying to highlight, you know, certain stories, certain perspectives, do you have any advice out there that you could maybe share with our filmmaking audience?
Yeah, it's interesting to be in a place of, you know, giving advice. I don't know that I'm qualified. I think you have to have a little madness. You know, I worked in advertising for 12 years before like jumping off into film. You know, something inside of me was like not alive when I was doing that. And this, for better or worse, you feel very alive. You get to experience all the human emotions in filmmaking. But I would say just I mean, I'm here because I haven't stopped.
Yeah.
And like, that's the only thing I can really say. I don't think I'm more talented than anyone. I don't think that I work harder than anyone. Like, you know, all the things that every filmmaker has to have. I don't think that I come in any more special. I think it's just like, you just keep going. I mean, I can't count the rejections that I've gotten, but the win, it just makes the wins like that much more rewarding. And I think to just really to really be able to hone in on your voice, like not worry about what other people are doing. I mean, some of my friends laugh at me because like they'll be quoting directors. I didn't go to film school, so I don't actually know about the greats, and like I'm like, oh, I don't know about that film. And like people are like, how are you a filmmaker? I'm like, so I think that matters less to me now. It's really about whatever you can do to hear your voice, and to be able to work from that place, like from your heart. There's a lot that you have to block out to be able to do that. So
Definitely. I
keep
love
going.
I love that you mentioned that, because, you know, really, you know, it's always great to look at and be inspired by others. But at the end of the day, you know, you got to focus on your story and what's important to you, and what stories that you want to tell, and how you want to see entertainment, and how you want the, you know, the stories that need to be heard, and all these things. So I'm so glad that you know, take that perspective. And not to mention, having marketing ability from advertising days certainly helps.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt at all. Well, listen, Soha, I'm so glad that you brought, you know, Rosa to us. I'm so excited about the developments of your TV series, and we love you at New Filmmakers, and just keep making more content for us, please.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have been able to be here. Thank you, guys.
Very much.